Well, a very happy Wednesday and welcome to another episode of the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is January 1st of 2025. And on today's episode, I will be giving you my top 5 female wrestlers from the WWE 2025. Last Wednesday, I gave you my top 5 male wrestlers from the WWE in 2025. And I encourage you to check out that podcast. I have a individual clip of that, and I also have it in last Wednesday's episode. So today we are going to give you our top 5 females. It's kind of more of a condensed list. Makes things very difficult, but I want you to think of this because I want you to join me. I want to hear who you guys feel should be in the top 5 from the WWE 2025. We've seen a lot of great female competition, a lot of great athletes, but who should be in your top 5? Just notate this when you are putting your list together. Don't be biased because you like somebody. Think about their accomplishments and think about if they didn't wrestle beyond 2025 and you could only judge them based off of their accomplishments in 2025. Was it good enough to make a Hall of Fame career? And was it good enough to be did they leave the industry better than the way they left it? So that's kind of the mindset that I want you to have in mind when putting this list together, because I feel like that's where things become a little bit more complex and difficult. And that's what I had going through this list, trying to figure out, all right, who deserves to be up there at number 1, who deserves to be down there at number 5, who deserves to be on this list that's not on this list. So I want to hear you out. Leave a comment in the comments below, but also reach out to me. I'll make a post of it later on this afternoon, or I've already made a post of it by the time I post this episode. So leave a comment below, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. We will also recap Raw, something I did not do yesterday, and we will also talk about the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2026, as 2 people were elected to join Jeff Kent, and so we'll break down those numbers and we'll talk about them and give them highlights. I wanted to start today's episode by talking about something that I saw over the last 24 hours, and it's about Triple H, who revealed yesterday on Netflix. It was a clip from season 2 WWE Unreal, and it was the injury angle that Seth Rollins had back last year in 2025 at Saturday Night Main Event. And so I was watching this clip this morning, and I kind of want to walk you through it. So a little bit of spoiler if you have not seen this recent episode, but I encourage you to watch it still for yourself. So what I watched was Triple H pull Cody Rhodes aside and said, hey, there's something I want to inform you about. It doesn't involve you, but because you are our top guy, I feel like you should know. He goes on to reveal that very little people know about this storyline angle, not even the referee, but Seth Rollins is going to fake an injury that is going to be used for this storyline for weeks to come and ultimately give him back the World Heavyweight Championship. And so he doesn't go into detail because he doesn't even know the detail between how it's going to happen. But what's going to happen is there's going to be an angle where Seth Rollins is going to fake an injury during the match. And although LA Knight's going to win the match, the story is Seth Rollins. And so he actually tells Rhodes, and I'll actually have the quote here. He says, and I quote, I want to smarten you up to something that nobody knows. We're going to do an angle tonight where Seth Rollins blows his knee out. We're kayfabing this like an MF. That's all I'm going to say. He goes on to say that the only people that really know is me, Bruce, Ed, Bobby Roode, Seth, and at LA. Paul Hill knows because he was there when he came up with it as of right now. And then he goes on and talks to Jessica about what's going to happen and the reaction that we're going to get and the sequence. And he goes on and says that he goes down, goes to Jess gives the X, medical comes out, legit goes to him. He calls an audible, which Jess will go tell LA Knight, did the referee need to know? Not necessarily. But I'm watching this because there was two things I really took away from this clip. One, there was an incident or a conversation after the fact that Seth Rollins was like, does LA Knight really need to know? And Paul was like, yeah, he does. He's your opponent. And on top of that, if you were in LA Knight shoes, you would be frustrated that you didn't know. Makes complete sense because number one rule in professional wrestling is taking care of your opponent. If someone gets injured, it becomes a real moment. I've also heard things that make sense to me where are selected people that must know. And one of them is the medical staff, especially related to a medical angle that is going to act as if Seth Rollins blew out his knee again. So that all makes sense. But I'm watching this, and I see just the look on LA Knight's face. And I just can't help but feel some sort of sympathy. I get it. This is a guy who the WWE hasn't put over. The WWE universe put over. This is a guy that has been built up for the last couple years, and every time he gets the spotlight in some way, shape, or form, it gets taken away from him. And so here's a moment last year, which I just frustrating to watch after you knew this angle, that LA Knight, although he picks up the win, the angle is about Seth Rollins blowing his knee out. I was fooled, just probably like a lot of other fans, that Seth Rollins was legitimately hurt. But my reflection on this clip, and I'm watching LA Knight, and I'm like, this guy's a jobber. No matter how high you build him, he fits the line with guys like R-Truth, guys like, I'm going to say The Miz. They will have a little bit of a success in their career, but the WWE will never put them above their ceiling at any point. They will get close to it. We saw LA Knight numerous times this year with WWE with opportunities to gain either the WWE or the World Heavyweight Championship. And it's upsetting because LA Knight's not getting any older or younger. And you have younger guys coming up, making a name for themselves. And it becomes a moment of what could have happened if they decided to push LA Knight. And so, I get it. It's you do a job. I would want to know. I'm glad that LA Knight knew. I'm glad that this all worked out well for everyone, despite Seth Rollins actually later getting injured. But, I'm watching this, and I feel for LA Knight because he's knowing the position the job that he has to do. And ultimately, despite a win, he's putting over Seth Rollins and helping him sell this angle. And it kind of just boiled my skin for a moment because I like LA Knight. I am a huge fan of LA Knight. I've There's not many people that can not be pushed by the WWE, but the universe, the fans are behind him and they love him. And you can't turn him heel. It's practically impossible. And every time he gets a moment to step into the spotlight, it gets pulled. It gets redirected, just like this incident, last year in July. And so I thought this was, a unique behind the scenes clip. You could check it out in series 2 of the WWE Unreal, which I think I'm going to have to check out. It's on Netflix. And maybe every episode that comes out, this will start being a trend that we review later on. Because, I do, I want to know things authentically. I'm not somebody who wants to know the spoilers before it happens. It takes away the magic. I still love the magic and the art creations behind a professional wrestling match and the storyline behind it. This is why I prefer WWE over AEW, because the storylines keep you invested, keep you questioning and speculate, well, what could happen next? AEW just those matches together, no rhyme or reasons, and it's basically every storyline is I'm better than you, and we're gonna show it tonight. And so I'm just, this is where my cup of tea is, and that's why we've also created this podcast, so we could come on here and share with you what's taken place, what is our speculations and takeaways from it, and what is our opinions moving forward. Now, sure, there's rumors that you can't avoid on social media, but as long as they don't spoil it. Now, 6-8 months down the road, after we're all settled in and even forgotten about that moment, if you want to give me a behind the scenes reel, by all means, let me have it. I want to know, the little ins and outs and see and pick the brains of these producers and how they put these storylines together and where they came up with it. So check it out, WWE Unreal on Netflix. Something I didn't get a chance to do yesterday because I ran out of time. I wanted to recap Monday Night Raw, which was in Ireland on Monday, an earlier start time. I guess it's these earlier start times get to me. I don't get a chance to really watch them. So I've seen highlights. I've seen the results. I've talked about a few things, but there's a few things that really stand out, in my opinion, that from Monday Night Raw that we can get into in a brief conversation as we give you an update. So heading into Raw, two things were at focus. One was the World Heavyweight Championship match, which CM Punk successfully defended against Braun Breaker on the first episode of Raw in 2026. Last week, Finn Balor comes out and challenges Punk to a match in Ireland, which was on Monday, for the title, and Punk agrees. Now, I don't see Punk promoted for Saturday Night Main Event this weekend or even the Royal Rumble next weekend. That may change, but within a month, he's defended his title twice, which I think creates some solid some solid outcomes for a fighting champion. And you've done it on Raw. The downfall is it's on Raw. So your chances of a title changing hands is slim to none. Now, it makes sense, Seth Rollins or CM Punk, World Heavyweight Championship, road to WrestleMania, right around the corner here. You don't really want to take the title off of CM Punk. And with, Finn Balor kind of still with the Judgment Day, and everyone in the Judgment Day is trying to compete for titles. You got Liv and Roxanne, challenging Io Sky and Rhea Ripley for those women tag team titles this weekend. Becomes, Judgment Day is the only faction in the on Raw right now, I will say, that has pushed themselves to try to regain championships. We know what Dominic Mysterio has and doesn't have. So I had really good hopes for this match, and I think it was well perceived. As a fan of, Balor, I believe that joining the Judgment Day years ago was really good for him, and I was optimistic about what we could see from the Judgment Day. And then over the years, as the Judgment Day has developed, all we've seen was, or has been, just him just in the shadows, in the background. There's really no rhyme or reason. He's teamed up with JD McDonough and hasn't really had much in the WWE. This is another guy that's not getting any younger. So when I see him out here as a single opponent, no one's behind him, no one's following him behind, and challenging Punk, I'm like, this is a great opportunity. What's even nice about this incident is that Balor comes in and he also comes in with new music. And well, not new music, but we're back to his old music. And I think that elevates everything. You're kind of giving the fans what they want. Ultimately, though, CM Punk delivers the GTS to Balor and retains the title. It kind of, for me, upsets me. I know the outcome. I kind of already predicted it well in advance. But what upsets me in this situation is Balor should be up there. He should be among these top elite guys in the storylines, in the mix of the shuffle, getting championships after championships after championships, and ultimately winning. And so it's a missed opportunity. I understand, where, what is going to be changed throughout the course of the road to WrestleMania. You're not taking the title off of CM Punk, but still a well-received match. Becky Lynch defeats Maxine Dupree to retain the Women's Intercontinental Championship. After, Maxine seemed to have the match won, but Natalya turned on Dupree, putting Lynch's foot on the ropes. Lynch then hit a manhandle slam to win the match. After the match, Natalya assaulted Dupree, and everyone jumps for joy. I'm as well as one of those guys. I love Natalya. I think she's been underutilized whenever she's out there on the screen and in matches. I think that this, she's finally recently been able to create this persona that she wanted to display all along. And she, this is a new Natalya that I hope the WWE continues and possibly pushes for a WrestleMania conversation. But Becky Lynch retains the Intercontinental Championship. Jey Uso declares for the Royal Rumble. Penta, Rey Mysterio, and Dragon Lee defeats Bronson Reed, Austin Theory, and Jake Paul via a pinfall. And, you have now Adam Pearce at ringside, stopping Brass Knuckles, not helping, but making sure things are even playing field. And this is another segment to me that, this vision. What's the vision if you're not winning? Yes, I see the idea and the concept that Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Austin Theory, Jake Paul, these are your future stars. But how are you pushing them? And how are you pushing them to become these stars if they're losing? The Judgment Day ends up attacking Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. This is prior to their match on Saturday. El Grande Americano defeats Javon Evans via a doctor stoppage. It looked like Evans suffered a concussion protocol, and I think it's great to see whenever something like that happens, WWE's taking proper measures. And I just hope that Javon Evans, is okay and he has a speedy recovery. The other story that I found interesting was the promo angle with Gunther and AJ Styles. AJ Styles challenges Gunther to a rematch at the Royal Rumble. Let's not forget that Gunther was the one who beat AJ Styles last week. And, the controversially conversations is that Gunther cheated. AJ Styles is not okay with that. He wants another opportunity. But Gunther says the only way he would accept his match is if Styles puts his career on the line. Styles later told Adam Pearce that he would talk to his wife, who said to kick his ass. And they made the match official. So at the Royal Rumble, we will see a one-on-one match between Gunther, AJ Styles, as AJ Styles is putting his career on the line. If he loses, then he is retiring from the WWE. We already know the story that AJ Styles is planning on retiring in 2026. Can't assume that this would happen this early in the year unless there's something that we don't know. I mean, especially like I said, with WrestleMania on its way, you would figure that AJ Styles would take these moments to have a respected farewell tour, unofficially announced. But all we know is he's expected to win or to end his career by the end of this year, the latest. Does the Royal Rumble indicate a mark? Because that is where the AJ Styles, I want to say, 10 years ago, debuted in the WWE at the Royal Rumble. Does this indicate his retirement from the Royal Rumble? Because it looks pretty good for Gunther, who was the heel of the year in 2025. He retired Goldberg. He retired John Cena. To add a retired AJ Styles on the resume just elevates that, that package, that resume. So it makes something interesting and a conversation piece to talk about. So I'm definitely now hooked on, and not just hooked on to the Royal Rumble matches, but hooked on to AJ Styles and Gunther. Alrighty, well, I want to take some time and highlight Enlighten Studios' upcoming events in February, as we will be treated to a special Valentine's Day class hosted by Nikel Chappell called Paint and Pastries on February 13th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Archville Theater in Cincinnati, Ohio. You can sign up and purchase your tickets for Paint and Pastries, which is a colorful, casual party atmosphere where you will sit back, relax, and let your creativity blossom. Step-by-step painting classes are designed just for you. Invite your friends and family, enjoy tasty treats, and follow along with their experienced local artist. Never painted before? No problem. These painting sessions are created just for you. They offer both groups and private classes for large parties. To get your tickets today by visiting tickettailor.com. A link will be provided in the description below. All right. So last night, Major League Baseball has concluded their 2026 voting ballot for the Hall of Fame. And it was announced that Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones will join center fielder Jeff Kent in Cooperstown this summer. And they both received the most votes last night. Carlos Beltran received 84%, while Andrew Jones received 78%. They were the highest, and runner-up was Chase Utley at 59, but you have to have at least 75 in order to be entered in the Hall of Fame. And this is the tone is set. I love Major League Baseball's way of who's going to be in the Hall of Fame. It's kind of written black and white. There's really no way around it. Yeah, there's sure some things I'd change about it. Instead of having news reporters and writers, I'd, maybe shake it up a little bit. But they feel that Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones had themselves a Hall of Fame career. This was Carlos Beltran's fourth try at the Hall of Fame. He spent 20 years in the major leagues. He's played for the Royals, the Mets, the Giants, the Cardinals, the Yankees, Texas, and Houston. He's finished off with a .279 batting average with 2,725 hits, 565 doubles, 435 home runs, 1,587 RBIs, 312 stolen bases. He was ranked 62nd in career hits, 31st in RBIs, 53rd in runs, and 34th in total bases. He is ranked 8th among the elite outfielders, sitting just behind guys like Ty Cobb, Mickey Mantle, Mike Trout, Ken Griffey Jr., Joe DiMaggio, and that's a pretty elite list if you think about it. An outfielder who carried his time through different teams and has seen success. Andrew Jones, who's joined that list as a center fielder, he was coming up on his 9th year of eligibility. Just think about this. 9 years ago, Andrew Jones was only voted 7% to make it into the Hall of Fame. So he's grown a long way since then. After 14, he has played for the Braves, the Dodgers, the Texas Rangers, the White Sox, and the Yankees. He finished off with a .254 batting average, 1,933 hits, 383 doubles, 434 home runs, 1,289 RBIs, and 1,204 runs with 152 stolen bases. He led the league in home runs and RBIs in 2005, and he's a 10-time Gold Glove winner. So if that says anything to those candidates who make it into the Hall of Fame, then that says a lot. So he'll be joining, those two will be joining Jeff Kent on July 26th in Cooperstown. And I was just kind of reviewing this list and comparisons to the other votes from the other people eligible. Chase Utley came in as a runner-up, 59%. Kind of drops down steep from there. Andy Pettitte at 48. Felix Hernandez at 46. Manny Ramirez at 38. This was his last year, so he's fallen off the ballot. Doesn't mean that he won't make it into the Hall of Fame, but he would have to be voted by a committee, which takes place in the fall time. Jimmy Rollins only at 25%. And then it really then starts dropping down to the teens. Omar Vizquel, David Wright. There are a handful of guys. There are 3 people who didn't get a vote at all. Gio Gonzalez, Howie Kendrick, Daniel Murphy, Nick Markakis, Alex Gordon, Rick Porcello, and Hunter Pence, and Matt Kemp. And let's just throw in Shin-Soo Choo only received 0.5%. Or, not even 1%. Ryan Braun at 3.5, Torrey Hunter at 8.7, David Wright 14.8, Dustin Pedroia at 20.7, Cole Hamels at 23. So, it looks very deceiving because a lot of these guys is their first time. And so you kind of have to sit on, and it doesn't look so well when you first start off, unless you're just a top elite player. But, I'm looking ahead into next year, and I hope guys like Chase Utley, maybe Felix Hernandez, gets those call-ups in the percentages to potentially join and be a part of the Baseball Hall of Fame. They got years available, but I think that I like how the format is. It's just it changes. And I'm just, I'd like to know a little bit more about that. If someone knows more about the Hall of Fame voting and that, how it goes down, and if it makes sense or not, please let me know. But that's going to be a nice sight to see in Cooperstown, July 26th. And if you're a young guy, because I grew up kind of watching the back end of, Beltran and Jones. I remember Andrew Jones and Chipper Jones with the Braves. And, like I mentioned, I think it was mentioned last week, how the Padres programs back in the day was a magazine. And every month they would have a new edition that would also include upcoming opponents that's coming to Petco Park that we should pay attention to. So when the Red Sox came into town, when the Red Sox came into town, it was, you had Kurt Schilling, you had Dustin Pedroia, you have Kevin, Youkilis, you had David Ortiz. When the Yankees came into town, it was Derek Jeter or Mariano Rivera. I remember guys like Chipper Jones, Andrew Jones, Beltran, they all made those lists. And if you're dangerous enough on a team to be a highlight of, hey, this is the guy who we need to look out for, come out and watch this player particularly, then I think you in my books, you belong in the Hall of Fame at some point in your career. I actually still have a couple of those. I actually went through one the other day right after I talked about it on the podcast, and I was like, maybe I'll have to show some to you so you guys can see. I like I said, I'm out here in Cincinnati, and they have a magazine. I think they have a couple editions throughout the year, but it's nothing really intriguing. And what I liked about the month-to-month magazines is that you could get more periodic, month-to-month updates. And inside the magazine, you had a scorecard, so you could keep score. They gave away those golf pencils, and they also had a roster, an actual roster per series available, so you know who was in the lineup that day. So we don't get that out here, and I'm a little bit bummed. Maybe I got to talk to someone with the Reds magazine marketing, whatever, and see what they could do about that. I think it would intrigue me. It's a collectible item. I feel like it's a collectible item. When I go to ball games, sure, people are into baseballs and bats. And don't get me wrong, I'm into all of those things, but I'm into those magazines because those things you could look back on. You can read comparisons, because I remember I had one with both Adrian and his brother, Gonzalez, Brian Giles and his brother as well, Sean Burrow, Scott Linebrake. And then you have the newer ones, with, you have Jake Peavy, and you just kind of see over the years how they have developed, or over the year itself, you collect all 6 of them, and it's kind of like that centerpiece that you hold on forever. So kind of, but anyways, these guys well-deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. So congratulations to them. And, saw the reactions, very excited. And I gotta say, can't wait until next year to see how Major League Baseball Hall of Fame unravels then. Alrighty, so Cincinnati Reds news. I got a couple of things that are tying along to each other. One was done with a trade that kind of unfolded this morning, and it, in a sense, a lot of people, and I have to agree with it, is saying that this is a big dodge bullet that we avoided. And that was that as of this morning, the Chicago White Sox have traded outfielder Luis Roberts Jr. to the New York Mets in exchange for infielder Luis Angel Acuna and right-handed pitcher Truman Pauly. And, you may have, if you've been following the Reds, or you have learned that earlier this offseason, the Reds have been lingered in the conversation of possibly trading for Luis Robert Jr. in a deal. And it seemed that all that is now a wayside, which is a bit of a relief. The White Sox were really wanting to add some prospects to their organization. Guys and names were mentioned like Cam Collier, Sal Stewart, Rhett Lauder, all that stuff. And it was I don't think the Reds were really going to budge. And rightfully so, because with all due respect, Luis Roberts, he's been kind of last couple years, he's kind of been injured and not really performing the same. And that's one of the risks you take on some of these younger guys that, some of these guys that are, have had injuries. You find guys giving them second chances of life. Maybe their days with a team, it could be prolonged and surpassed, but there's also a big contract tied along to Luis Roberts that I'm glad that the Reds didn't take on, because the last thing we need is to capture a contract for a player that either we're going to release and have to eat up. And apparently the Reds don't have any money, but they have money to offer to Kyle Schwarber. They have money to offer Ellie De La Cruz, but yet we have no money to pay anyone as big as of a contract. But I think this is a new look for the Mets. Mets can kind of eat up this contract and not really be a phase. They have unfolded their roster a little bit, dealt off and not re-signed Edwin Diaz, and we saw a couple other transactions went a different direction here this year. And the White Sox, who keep things on a low budget, just like the Reds. I think Luis Angel Acuna was one of those people that was on my free, list that I wouldn't mind even having. Not necessarily a bad deal, pending that he stays healthy, right? And I just don't know too much about Truman Pauly to say anything. The other news that, as we head into spring, as free agency is starting to wrap up and people are starting to sign with teams, the Reds are lingering even more news and speculations about the possible return of a former infielder and Eugenio Suarez. Suarez, who played for the Mariners and the Diamondbacks last year, were linked to the Reds in a possible trade towards the deadline. The Reds did not move from that. Instead, Suarez, I think, went to the Mariners, if I'm not mistaken. And now there is conversations about bringing back a fan favorite. Now, I don't know about you, but the last time I remembered Suarez on this team, we were asking to get rid of him. If I'm not mistaken, I mean, he was barely batting .220. He wasn't being progressive. This was a team with Nick Castellanos, Jesse Winker. You had Sonny Gray, Wade Miley.
Bluetooth disconnected.
I guess I had my Bluetooth on. Anyways, I just had something in the audio. I don't know if that's going to receive or not. We'll see. But it's one of those things that I am questioned about for purposes of what he has produced last time. Now, there's that chance of, him going out there, experiencing different teams. He, comes back and he has a different performance. And, sure, the Reds need a power hitting guy. Does that power hitting aspect come from Suarez? But, I don't know. One thing that I would like to find out, you think about this, Suarez is a third baseman. You got Key Brian Hayes at third. So if you bring him in the way I'm looking at it, you'd bring him in as a DH, which would take the strategy behind of using guys like Tyler Stevenson or Ellie De La Cruz off the back. Who do you start at third if you need to rest somebody? I think for a power-wise, you can give Suarez an opportunity. Now, if you're going to give him an opportunity, the downfall is he's going to probably be looking at about, $30-40 million. And I don't know if that's the risk I'm willing to retake again, bringing him back, knowing what he gave out at Great American Ballpark, and hoping that in his time apart after the last 3 to 4 years that he has changed and he's better, well-developed, and he's more consistent. That was a big issue, being consistent. So, in my opinion, it kind of is. It weighs. Is the risk worth it at the right price? Sure. I mean, We're still missing a powerful right-handed hitter. We're still kind of missing that everyday DH role, and Suarez could fit that position based off of what we saw last year. But you take that risk if he's asking for $30, $40 million a year. That's an extra $15 million above our salary cap that the Reds so-called have. Would it be ideal? The Reds offered Ellie De La Cruz a substantial amount. The Reds offered Kyle Schwarber amount, but apparently we don't have the money for it. So I wouldn't mind seeing it happen. Probably wouldn't be happening until late, very close to spring training. But just like a lot of these other speculations and rumors, that's all they are. They don't really carry much water. They make the news every other week or so, and based off of reporters and what they would like to think, we're throwing that cast out there to the Reds, hoping that they catch up on one of these articles and say, you know what, that's not a bad deal. Let's follow through with that. It honestly would be surprising if we see the Reds pick up Suarez for the 2026 season. But who knows? Anything's possible. I will be dumbfounded. All right, Enlighten Studios has an upcoming production here in February, from February 27th through March 8th. You could check out and join Enlighten Studios for Grassroots, held at the Archfield Theater in Cincinnati, Ohio, written and directed by Terry Chappell. The second, Grassroots, is set back in the 1950s, where a neighborhood where lawns were immaculate and equality is far from it. Follow the Gibson family, the first black homeowners on the block, as they confront the quiet, cutting injustice of daily life. When the neighborhood mailman shows respect to every white household, but pointedly tramples across the Gibsons' carefully kept lawn, a tension standoff brews between dignity and discrimination. Told in a single set with a vivid stage direction and original music, Grassroots is a moving story of family, resilience, and the courage it takes to stand firm one blade of grass at the time. You can check out Grassroots. Tickets are available for purchase by visiting tickettailor.com or by heading to the link in the description below. Check them out, support them out. Also, while we are supporting Enlighten Studios, I'd like to invite you to join and follow their new podcast called Light in the City. It's a podcasting channel available on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio that updates on a weekly basis. They have a series of informative education and news related back around to Enlighten Studios, talking about their promotions. And one of the weekly series that is hosted on underneath the Light in the City is called the Enlighten Express, hosted by me truly, Justin. And I encourage you to check it out, where we keep you up to date with Enlighten Studios news and upcoming events. We get a chance to talk with cast members, crews, and upcoming projects. And I just had this last one back on Monday, talked about Martin Luther King and shared his impact of Cincinnati performing arts. Got to hear from Terry Chappell himself and what the doctor, the Reverend, meant to him. And it was a great moment to listen to. I encourage you guys to check it out. It's called The Enlighten Express. I will provide a link to that also in the description below. So when you get time to check that out as well. Alrighty, it is time to get to our top 5 female wrestlers of 2025 from the WWE. This has been long overdue. I've been thinking a lot about this. There's a lot of wrestlers in the WWE that deserve to be noticed and recognized. The women wrestling continues to grow, and every few years it seems like they elevate just more. You have a handful of female wrestlers that just catapult to the top of the chain. We were highlighted and treated by a lot of people throughout the course of the year. Tiffany Stratton, Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, Lyra Valkyria, Bayley, Naomi, who had her success and then was informed that she was pregnant, had to hold that to a pause. Bianca Belair, who I believe got injured. Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, kind of two of your top ideal wrestlers who kind of held down the fort through the entire year. From the beginning of the year to those championship matches where you saw Io Sky win the Women's World Championship, to even now where they both now, once were bitter enemies, now they carry the Women's Tag Team Champions and are about to defend them against Alexa Bliss and Roxanne Perez. So, I hope you guys had time to think about who were in your top 5. I have my top 5 list. I want to share some notables who did not make the list, but definitely deserve the recognition. Lyra Valkyria is one of those persons who deserves the recognition, was the inaugural Women's Intercontinental champion. She goes on and has these feuds with Becky Lynch, Bayley. We see them progress. Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, teaming them up, making them tag team champions at one point. Naomi, as we mentioned, a champion of herself. Bianca Belair, who kind of inputted herself into a WrestleMania match, making it a triple threat match. One of the best matches of the year from the women's side of the WWE. And Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch did not make this list, in my opinion, but she's also kind of reinvented herself as this heel woman that has, with her feud with AJ Lee and her, her standing side by side with her husband, Seth Rollins. You're just trying to find a way to keep yourself relevant in the story mix. It doesn't have to be the entire year, but it's well perceived long enough to make an impact of last year. So the women wrestling industry in the WWE last year grew. Coming in at number 5, Tiffany Stratton. I feel like she kind of died off, but I want to just notice and highlight that she came into the WWE. She kind of took aid to Nia Jax in 2024, won the Women's Money in the Bank, successfully became the WWE Women's Champion, and excels to the top of the women's division on the SmackDown brand. She encounters Charlotte Flair, and they have this feud heading into WrestleMania, which, to me, Charlotte Flair is the icon, is the standard, the pivotal standard to what a female wrestler holds. At least she's the woman to beat, in my opinion. She's at forefront, top of the food chain, the ultimate, the mega shark. That if you want to make it in the WWE, you got to get past her. And the first half of the year, this builds up to her defeating Tiffany Stratton, who looked up to Charlotte, who believed that she was an icon, and was one of her favorites. She had to overcome and suppress one of the top best female wrestlers of the WWE. Successfully doing so, she goes on and has a title reign for 9 months that, for me, was filled in with defeats from Bayley, Nia Jax, Trish Stratus, and even Jade Cargill at SummerSlam. She did lose the Cargill, but her run has included some of the top tier female wrestlers of the WWE overall. To me, her progression early on in the year is good enough to place her in this top 5 list as she begins this list. Coming in at number 4, I have Jade Cargill. She did become the WWE Women's Champion. She was also a Queen of the Ring, and she also had a WWE Evolution victory. Those highlights just only grew with her throughout the course of the year. She was dominant in AEW. We knew that at some point that had to carry over. Let's not forget the feud that when she came back and she had with Naomi which sparked a lot of interest. And it took us for a twist. But she continued to grow throughout the year, ultimately winning and holding the WWE Women's Champion. That's why she's number 4. At number 3, I have JC Jane, one of the probably most impressive NXT women's star of the entire NXT run, to be honest. She won the NXT Women's Championship twice. She won the TNA Knockout Women's Championship. She was the first wrestler to hold the TNA Knockout and NXT Women's Champion. And she also is ranked 11th of PWI's top 250 women of 2025, which I think is impressive. For coming from NXT, which they continue to evolve, continue to adapt, continue to grow, NXT is a hot spot. There's a lot of people in the mix, and JC Jane is one of them. And I do hope if that continues, she can at some point find success and roll that over into the WWE main roster. Now, I'm going to be honest, my next 2 were difficult trying to place. I had to do some extra thinking, but coming in at number 2 is Stephanie Vaquer. A year of dominance defines Stephanie Vaquer's accomplishments in 2025. She was the first to hold both the NXT champion both women's titles at the same time earlier this year. Think about that. She didn't win one, but she won 2 women's championships at the same time down at NXT. She got brought up to the main roster earlier this year, where she beat Io Sky to become the new WWE Women's World Champion. She was the 2025 Crown Jewel Champion, and she's also had the most wins in 2025 with 43. Now think about this. Wrestling has cut down, not as many matches as you'd honestly think of. You're probably wrestling once, twice a week at best, cutting no more than about 100 matches a year, if that. But Stephanie Vaquer dominated this year, grew 3 championships and a Crown Jewel champion all within the same year, I think is impressive. Coming in at number 1 is going to be Io Sky. What separated me between Io Sky and Stephanie Vaquer has to be one thing in particular. But Io Sky became a WWE Women's Champion. Something that didn't quite make sense to me, but it worked out. She was also the first Japanese woman to win at WrestleMania. She was recognized as the first wrestler to become a Grand Slam champion in both Japan and the U.S. And she was also Women's In-Ring Performer of the Year. You start connecting talent to independent wrestling, to other parts of the country, and WWE has, I think, this promotion going on of we're global. This is a global phenomenon. And you start tying a wrestler and their accomplishments to all of that in a year. That's what stands out to me. And that's why Io Sky, in my opinion, is just one more advanced than Stephanie Vaquer. Both of them come into, actually the top 3 that we have, the top 4 that we have, come into with championships around their shoulder. They are the bar. They set the standard for what is a champion like in 2026. And I think it's a great group of people who have a lot to still left to offer, but it gives these younger talents and the current talents on the roster something to thrive for, to fight for. What's also to point out here, people like Rhea Ripley didn't make this list. People like Bianca Belair didn't make this list. Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch. Not saying that they weren't good not to make this list, but we really start seeing a evolve and adaptation. I mean, Tiffany Stratton was on the list last year. I think enough work to hold it. Think of people like Maxine Dupree, who's really improved this year also. So what is your top 5 female wrestlers from the WWE in 2025? I want to know. Let me know down in the comments below. Have those chat with me. We have still 2 more days to talk about sports. We'll get ready for the AFC champion, NFC championship. I'm excited to talk about that. A couple other conversations around sports. As I think tomorrow I want to look at who has already signed and with NFL head coaches and kind of revisit that and keep everyone up to date in the loop of that. So that is probably going to be one of our conversations heading into Thursday. And then don't forget we have SmackDown on Friday, and we're just getting ready for another sports week. We're counting down the days to spring training, pitchers and catchers report when they start stealing out the trucks to Arizona. They have to be doing that soon if they haven't done that already. But that is all the time I have for you guys on this episode. I want to thank everyone for tuning into this episode. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. I invite you to carry our conversations over to our social media by following us at the TNC Sports Talk. You can catch us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and get involved in the conversations. Also, if you guys are downloading us or listening to us on a podcast, you can take us on the road in the car, at work, or even in the office by downloading us, TNC Sports Talk. Hit that follow button. Have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. But until next time, until tomorrow, you guys have a wonderful, safe, warm, and fun evening. And we'll be back tomorrow to have another episode at 7 p.m. So that's it. You guys have a good one, and we will catch you later. Take care.